So you finally started moving consistently, but then a flare hit or sickness hit your house. And before you realize it, you have lost the momentum that you had built with your exercise routine. In the last episode, we talked about why you struggle to start exercising, even though you want to, and how oftentimes starting small can be the key to seeing progress with that. Today, I want to talk about what happens after you have already started. Because for many of us, the struggle doesn't end once we get into this habit of moving our bodies. The reason being, fatigue shows up, pain flares, sickness hits, you don't have any energy, you get busy with life, and then suddenly you're wondering, is this still worth it? Do I actually have time for this? Am I making things worse by moving my body? How do I start back up again now that I've lost my momentum? All right, friends, I am going to dig into that with you today, so let's get started.
Welcome to Chronic Illness Moms. If you're more than just a tired mom, I'm talking trying to make it through the day without crashing by noon while raising neurodivergent kids, you're not alone. I'm Ashley, a wife, mom, and certified health coach. I have lived with autoimmune disease and flare-ups that made everyday life feel harder than it should. After years of pushing through and burning out, I learned how much stress, poor sleep, and nervous system overload were driving my symptoms. Everything changed when I started building small, realistic habits that actually supported my body instead of fighting it. In this podcast, you'll learn simple habits that help you to feel better. So pop in your earbuds and take a break from the chaos. It's you time.
If this cycle sounds familiar, start, stop. Just know you are not alone. So many moms with chronic illness will say, I just want more energy. I want to feel stronger. I want to stay consistent in my exercise routines or in eating healthy, or all of these things that we know would help us to feel more like ourselves again, but we're just struggling to be consistent. And really with good reason, because we get interrupted sleep. Our kids need more routines, go out the door when sickness hits. All of these things happen. And that is exactly why I built my one-on-one coaching program, because the goal is not to create these perfect routines that we always stick with no matter what. It's about building habits that actually work with your real life. Inside coaching, we focus on nervous system friendly movement, healthy eating, all these healthy foundations that fit into chronic illness and also neurodivergent parenting. If you want support building consistency in a way that's actually going to fit into your real life, you can learn more at ashleybraden.com/coaching or check the link in the show notes below. Now let's talk about what to do when discouragement shows up. I want to tell you a little bit about what this has looked like for me in the past. There have been seasons where I would finally start moving consistency. I was feeling really great about seeing the progress that I was making, and then a hard week would hit. A child would be up throughout the night and I was exhausted. My energy would be gone before noon and I could not imagine moving my body beyond just getting through the day, or sickness would hit and I would prioritize rest to help my body to recover. And then almost immediately this thought would come up of what's the point if I can't do this every day, or why does it seem like every time I start making traction on this, something comes up to prevent me from moving forward? Sometimes it wasn't even my body stopping me. It was schedules or circumstances or even guilt. Guilt for taking time, guilt for choosing to make time for myself, guilt for not doing enough to make it count. What I had to learn is that consistency doesn't have to mean doing the same thing every single day. During some seasons, some weeks, some days even, it can mean staying connected to your body and doing things that are right in that moment, because every day is different. Your energy level is different. Your capacity is different. How you feel is different. So learning to adapt and to adjust, and also to adjust our expectations, has been a really big key point in me staying consistent with movement. So let's talk about some of these things that can kind of get in our way and what we can do instead. The first thing is, when you fall out of the habit of moving your body, you're often tempted to think that is something wrong with you. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stay consistent? And that is usually not the issue. It's not usually that it's you, as in like, oh, you have a character flaw, So, especially in a home where you're struggling with chronic symptoms or chronic illness, you also have kids who are neurodivergent, routines just get interrupted. Sleep schedules shift, appointments start to stack up. Your child might need more from you. You're having some kind of a flare up, and the movement that you were doing consistently just stops. It's not because you lack discipline or because you don't want to do it. It's because your schedule changed. It's because the needs of your body changed. Think about it. If you have been going a week without sleeping, 7 to 8 hours a night, then your body is struggling from that lack of sleep. And we know whenever our good restorative sleep drops, then stress rises, cortisol increases. We know when cortisol increases that inflammation will rise in the body. And when inflammation increases, then fatigue increases. So it all works together. And the thing we have to remember is that is just physiology. It is not a failure on your part. It is not a character flaw. Your body is basically in triage. It's just trying to say, what do we need in order to get through this stressful event, this stressful situation? So instead of asking, why can't I stay consistent, or why does something keep happening to get me off track, try this instead. What if you just say, what changed in my life or my energy? Because most of the time it is not a discipline problem. I mean, there might be times where it is, but largely if we can actually stop and kind of assess and analyze, we will realize that something shifted that caused us to struggle to get back to that movement habit. And a lot of times it is life circumstances or sickness or things like that. And the reason why I like to say, ask yourself this question is because taking the time to assess what's going on can get you out of that state of blaming yourself and into the problem solving mindset of, okay, I understand now that I'm not getting consistent sleep, but I also understand that moving my body helps me to sleep at night. So what can I do in order to work towards my goal of moving my body consistently? Okay, so another thing would be that oftentimes whenever we fall off track and we go to restart, there's kind of this pressure to get back to where you were. It's like you want to make up for lost time. You want to prove to yourself that you can still do it. But when your nervous system is already taxed out because you've been going through a stressful time, then intense exercise can feel like a threat to your body. It does not feel like support. It does not feel restorative. So you're actually stressing your body out more by pushing it beyond the limits that it has at that time. And that's when you end up feeling more sore, more inflamed, you're sleeping worse, feeling more irritable. And those are the things that as you realize, okay, let's say you fell off of the exercising routine for a couple of weeks, you start back up again and you're really pushing it hard and you feel worse. Well, naturally you think, okay, see, I can't keep this up. This is not working for me. I just can't do this. So instead of just pushing yourself to try to get back where you were right away, instead ask, what can I do now? What do I feel like I have the capacity or just my body is physically able to do right now? And not only right now in this moment, but also what's realistic that I can repeat this same thing tomorrow? Because I can push myself really hard today and make myself really sore, but am I going to be able to do anything tomorrow? Probably not. So I love thinking of that shift of, okay, what is it that I can repeat again tomorrow? So, think of it this way. If you were doing 30 minutes before, maybe today you're starting at 5 or 10. If you were lifting weights, but you've taken a huge break, maybe you do lift weights, but you do slightly lighter weights. If you were walking a mile, maybe instead you're walking half of a mile. It's just figuring out something that you can do consistently, kind of like you're starting back again, like we shared in last week's episode, where we're starting small and we are building up over time. So really, and the thing that's important about this is that you are, again, just focusing on rebuilding the habit that you had gotten into versus I've got to immediately get back to the set fitness goal. Okay, so the third thing is we oftentimes need to redefine what is going to count as movement on days where we're busy or we didn't sleep and we're exhausted or we're having some kind of a flare. Once you're back in motion, this is what can keep you from quitting again, because there are going to be times when you are exhausted, when you're not sleeping, when you are having a flare up of symptoms. And so we can fall into this trap of thinking, okay, if I can't do the full workout, what's the point? I'll just wait until I can. But on those days, instead, if we can pivot our goal and adapt it to where we're at, then we're still going to be making progress. We're not stopping that habit. We're still making progress, but we are being realistic about where our bodies are right in that moment. So the other thing I like about this is the fact that instead of completely stopping movement at all, even if you do something that's more gentle or restorative, you are still moving your body. Because think about it. If you had been consistently moving your body and then you don't for like a week a lot of times your joints are going to feel stiffer, your muscles are tighter. It just starts to feel harder to do the things you were doing before. And you might notice, I'm not sleeping as well at night. So instead of just saying, I'm having a hard time, I'm not going to move at all, focus on those days where you just don't have much to give. Focus on those movements that are going to help you to just maintain. This could look like stretching. Maybe you're slowly walking. Could be like range of motion exercises. Could just be stepping outside and walking around for a few minutes. Or it could be, okay, I'm going to do what I was doing before, but I'm going to do it in like a very short burst instead of a longer extended time that I was doing it before. It could be that you shorten the time, you reduce the intensity of what you were doing before. But really what it comes down to is really being in tune with your body and focusing on what your body can tolerate in that moment. And then not beating yourself up for the fact that you didn't do it the way you wanted to or the way you had been before, because you are still moving your body. And the thing we have to remember is that a lot of times we think things like more restorative movement, it doesn't count, but it truly does. It is helping you to maintain at least some of the progress that you have already made instead of, going from I'm exercising for 30 minutes to I'm doing nothing at all. At least we are finding some kind of middle ground that's going to help us to maintain. Okay. So what I want you to ask yourself is, what would keep my body from feeling worse today? Or what is it that I can handle today based off of whatever life circumstances, physical circumstances, whatever you have going on. Okay. And then the last thing is we also have to kind of address this mindset of feeling guilty for taking care of ourselves, because especially if you are raising kids, if you're raising neurodivergent kids, you are often the regulating nervous system in your home. And I relate to this so much. It's a big reason why I really started to focus on managing my stress was because I realized how much it was impacting my children. And whenever I was able to finally get a handle on my stress response, and being able to regulate my own nervous system, it was so interesting to me to see the impact that it had on my children, especially in difficult moments for them. Whenever I was able to stay regulated and help them to co-regulate. So, when someone is melting down or there's a really hard transition or sleep has been off for days, we are constantly absorbing the stress of that. If that stress does not get moved out of your body somehow, if we're not able to close that stress cycle, then we're just staying in that stress response constantly. So that's part of the reason why I personally love restorative movement, like stretching and things like that, because it can help to close that stress cycle so that we can then begin to, instead of just being stressed, round and round we go, we can actually begin to recover, which is what we want. So if we can work on, I know I'm in a really hard season right now, or my body is already stressed and I don't want to stress it more. So I'm going to focus on more restorative exercises like gentle walking, stretching, things like that. It's going to help to lower your cortisol, release muscle tension, improve your circulation, support your emotional health. All of that, even just 5 to 10 minutes, can make a huge impact on this. And the reason why I really like to talk about this is because I think a lot of times moms can feel guilty for making time for themselves, and they can think, okay, but should I really be taking 20 minutes of my day to focus on something for myself? And I like to encourage you to think about the benefit that all of this has for your family. If you are sleeping better, if your mood is improved, if you're feeling better, how much better do you show up for your family when you're in that state? You are not stepping away from them. You're not neglecting them. You are strengthening your ability to show up for them in the healthiest way possible. And I think also one of the things that I really love about this is because we dig into the Power 9, healthy foundational habits in my one-on-one coaching program. And practicing exercise is such a great way to lower inflammation, improve your stress response, help you to rest better at night, and then also just have that long-term sustainability to keep up with your kids, to be active, to be engaged, to be involved. So there are so many benefits to moving your body, and it's not just all about you. It really does. When we take that time to take care of ourselves, our families also reap the rewards of that. So I just want to give you kind of that reframe on the guilt that you might feel, because sometimes that guilt can be what causes us to kind of derail, is because we're doing it consistently. And then we start to feel bad that we're making that time for ourselves. So that is just another thing to think about. This is not selfish time away. It's a time for you to take care of yourself, which really does help to take care of your family as well. Okay, so here's what I want you to try this week. I want you to just sit down and make a simple movement plan. This does not have to be like some kind of strict workout plan. I want you to just choose options based off of 3 different categories, and I'm going to share those with you in a minute, that you can pull from based off of your energy or whatever is going on in your life. So we're going to do low energy options, medium energy options, and then high energy options. So some examples of low energy could be gentle stretching. It could be like slow walking inside or outside, range of motion exercises for like your hips, your shoulders, your neck. You could do calf raises. You could do like short movement breaks, maybe like it's like a 1 minute long session, things like that are going to keep things moving, lower your stress, and then also help to prevent stiffness. Okay, medium energy options could be 10 to 20 minutes of walking. It could be doing some light dumbbell or body weight or resistant bands, anything like that. Body weight squats, lunges, modified push-ups, anything that's kind of, it's going to give you that more of that middle of the road strain on your body. Again, it's kind of getting that little extra push, but you're not completely draining yourself. Okay, then higher energy options would be like a longer strength training session. It could be heavier lifting. It could be doing maybe some interval walking or hiking or like a structured workout class or something like that. And of course, as always, we want movement to be fun. So modify this to what sounds the best for you. These were just some examples to give you some ideas to start with. Okay, friends, so that is all for this episode. I would love to hear what is on your movement plan. What do you have for the lower energy, the medium energy, and then the high energy? You can come share with us over in our Facebook group. I will link that down in the show notes below. Or you can email me or reach out to me on social media. That is all for this episode. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you back next time.
Hey friend, I hope you found today's episode helpful. If you did, would you take a minute to share it with another mom who's struggling with chronic symptoms? And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to me to know this podcast is making a difference for you. All right, it's time for me to go tackle those snack requests, and remember that a short walk, even if the kids turn it into a race, still counts as self-care. Keep chasing those little wins. Even when it feels messy, you're making progress. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. I'm not a doctor, and this podcast is not intended to treat or diagnose any condition. You're the expert on your body. Listen to it and reach out to a trusted provider for support.